स्वाध्याय टीवी। डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी।
Namaste. Behalf of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Open University, I, Professor Ami Upadhyay, welcome you all in this learning session. Under communication skills, dear learners, today we are going to discuss about characteristics of communication. Communication, you know what communication is all about. What is the process of communication? And today we will discuss about the characteristics of effective communication. Effective communication. Yes. First, communication is a two-way process. Now, as you have learnt the process of communication, you know that it is the complete cycle that starts with ideation. The idea is there, the idea is with the sender. Sender thinks about the idea, how to encode, then he or she encodes the idea. After encoding the idea, choosing the correct, right, appropriate channel and medium, the idea encoded message is sent to the receiver. The receiver decodes it, tries to understand. After understanding, interpreting, responds to it as a feedback. So, yes, we know it that communication is a two-way process. It is not that I communicate with myself and again I respond to it. It is never so. So, it is a two-way process. Second is, it is a continuous process. You might be thinking that a communication that takes place today gets over within maybe a few seconds or maybe a few minutes, few hours. No, it is a continuous process. The communication continues. For example, if we talk about personal communication, I asked a student to stand out of the class as a punishment. I asked the student to come after reading a particular piece of literature or maybe a book. Now, the student responds to it by following the suggestion, instruction or order given by me. Now, the communication that has taken place following the instruction, suggestion, order, that helps in the structuring, framing of context. Now, we know that context plays very vital role, very significant role in ideation of communication. The ideas come from there. If we talk about professional, career professional communication, today a boss, the superior authority orders you to do something. Okay, prepare a report on so and so, prepare a questionnaire on so and so event, anything. Now, you have implemented it, you prepared a report, you submitted it, respond to it. Now, after the submission, again either the further queries are related to there or maybe further instructions related to that. So, communication is a continuous process, it does not stop. Even as communicators, we have experienced it that many a times after the completion of communication also, completion of communication, that at a particular point of time we feel okay, the communication is over, but it keeps on hanging over or the influence of it is experienced. So, the later communication, later maybe our way of living, decision making, they are influenced by particular cycle of communication. Next, which is very important characteristic, is communication is goal oriented. Why do we communicate? Just for the sake of? No, we do not communicate simply just for the sake of communication. Every communication, which might be very personal or completely professional, has certain goals to achieve. At personal level, a person asks his wife, her husband, children, parents to do something, communicate something to friend. There may be very personal objectives of that communication, sharing, enjoying, or maybe feeling, you puke out your sorrows, your pain, your disturbance, and you feel, oh, relieved. The objective is there. Sometimes maybe simply to strengthen the relationship. At professional level, the organizations have their own goals. Now, how organizational goals are achieved? How are they achieved? They are achieved through communication. Absence of communication, the goals are not achieved. Maybe wherever a person is confused about certain things, how to implement it, how to move this file, would ask the colleague, okay, you are more experienced, let me know how to do it. Sometimes the orders are given, the instructions are provided, oh, you are instructed to do this by the superior authority, then they have to be followed. The task has to be finished. So, it is goal oriented. Without any goal, generally no communication takes place. Many a times when as we have talked about extra communication or maybe intra communication, when extra level or intra level also communication takes place, there are also certain objectives, goals. Dear learners, keep in mind, all the time the communicators might not be completely conscious about the goals and objectives of communication, but subconscious mind is clear. In subconscious mind, at the subconscious or maybe certain time unconscious level, they are there. The goals, objectives, aims, reasons are there. Next is communication involves mutuality of understanding between sender and receiver. Understanding, you might be thinking, what exactly understanding here? That I speak and you understand, I communicate, you accept. Is that the understanding? No. As we have discussed, that communication can be verbal, non-verbal, any of them. Now, whether a word or maybe certain gesture, expression, body language, kinesics, proxemics, whatever is there, the sender is using, again voluntary, non-voluntary, consciously or subconsciously. It is very important that that symbol is being understood and interpreted by the receiver also. For example, when I say, oh, where is my wristwatch? My wristwatch. When I say my wristwatch, the person to whom I am communicating, who is being communicated, does not know what wristwatch stands for. How would he or she respond to it? If I say, now what do I mean by this? Stop it. If one does not understand this, doesn't understand this, then it will be very difficult. One, now this is multiplication, this is plus. Do you understand these symbols? So, it is very important that however, with whichever tool, either as a language as a tool, or maybe non-verbal sign, symbol, etc. as a tool, medium, the communication is exchanged, that takes place. It is very important that the sender and receiver, both of them are on the same platform, especially in sharing of those meanings of those symbols. So, the important characteristic is that sender and receiver, they understand and interpret the symbols of communication exactly in the same way, with the same meaning. Next characteristic of communication is it involves exchange of ideas, feelings, information, thought and knowledge. That means the sharing takes place. Again you see here you will find something related to the objective goal that we discussed about. When a person communicates, he or she has very keen urge to share information, share some idea, some feelings, emotions or task to be done, whatever, the sharing will always be there. Effective communication when takes place, the sender first always tries to evaluate himself or herself. What is the objective? What exactly does what exactly do I wish to share? And when the person, the sender is very clear, the communication would be very effective, to the point and purpose serving. Next, communication has to be complete. Most of the time, my dear learners, it has been observed either at personal level or at professional level. Most of the problems, conflict, they arise simply because of communication gap. There was communication gap. Gap means what he said I could not understand, what she said I misunderstood. It did not reach me completely. Most of the time, we have observed it that you finish your talk, somebody simply, leaves a talk unfinished, incomplete. I really, wish to tell you that, but now, we feel, but what? Tell me, but what? Why? Because that, but what? That the incomplete part of communication keeps on, disturbing us. What was exactly there? And that incomplete communication leaves so many scopes for lot many interpretations as well as misinterpretations. I didn't mean it, but you didn't say so. Yeah, I didn't say so. That means the communication was incomplete, it was not complete. So, whenever communication takes place, as a sender, as a receiver, one has to be very careful that it is complete. As a learner, you might be feeling that as a sender it is fine, that whatever I communicate, I have to provide all the information. I feel that this is the task to be performed. Point A, B, C, D, 4 points involved in the completion of the task. I ask the person who is to be assigned the task, I tell him that this task is to be performed. A, B, C, D, these are 4 levels of completion. As soon as you finish the 4 levels, you come to me. Fine. As a sender, I provided all the information, that is fine. You might be thinking that in the complete information, communication has to be complete. What could have been the role of receiver? Yes, my dear learners, receiver also has a vital role to play. For example, when A, B, C, D 4 tasks are assigned, at a point of time as a receiver you feel, okay, ma'am, A, B is fine, at C level I need 2 people to help me. At D level I would require this data to finish my task. from whom should I collect this data? At third level, who would help me or assist me, sir? So, here you are trying to clarify. Okay, there is a possibility when you are asked for A, B, C, D, you may ask, would you please repeat the B level, as that instruction is not clear to me. So, that is the role of receiver in complete communication. Next characteristic of effective communication is the communication has to be concise. You might have studied 8 C's of effective communication. Yes, concise, brief, to the point. As a communicator, to speak a lot does not make one effective communicator. The communicator who speaks less without missing a single important word or single important information is effective communicator. Sometimes what happens that in communication we provide so much of either information or content that it is very difficult for the receiver to segregate, to separate what is important, what is not important, what exactly is the gist of the instruction or communication. In such situation, it is very important that this is the goal of communication, objective of communication. As per the objective of communication, this is the size of the message. Exactly this is the size of the message. And when I encode the message as a sender, as a communicator, I see to it that I do not use any extra word, phrase, idioms, at the same time not missing anything important. You see, the brevity of the message, the conciseness of the message should never be at the cost of the understanding of the message. Simply to make it brief, concise, I would take out important information, words, phrases, that should not happen. Yes. Next important characteristic of communication is the communicator should be considerate about or focusing on reader's expectation from the speaker. If I am the communicator, I should be very clear. Why do I communicate? Second, who is my targeted audience, listener? The message is addressed to whom, meant for whom. And third, very important part of this characteristic, what are their expectations from me? We all of us have come across very frequently about various advertisements. Now, in advertisements, there is an advertisement of maybe washing powder, or maybe so they would say it helps you to clean your clothes, it helps your skin also, it does not harm your skin also. They do not say that you buy and we would be getting this much of benefit, they do not say so. Why? They focus on you attitude in communication. You attitude means you are the listener. The listener has his or her own expectation of outcome. So, whenever we communicate, we have to keep in mind what are the expectation of listener. Again, the understanding, cultural, educational, social, religious background of listener also plays vital role. That is again very important, that we have discussed in the process of communication also. But the expectation, if I feel that this message is very important for me to communicate. Second, this message is very important to be communicated. You see the difference. I repeat, first, that this message is very important for me that I communicate it. Second, this message is very important to be communicated. Third is it is very important for you to listen, understand and respond to this message. I hope you understand the difference amongst these three statements. Yes, the third part is very important in communication, that as a characteristic we should understand that what are the expectations of the learner, that also should be served, fulfilled. So, they as a result they would be very actively involved in the process of communication. Communication should not be vague, pointless. Yes, this is the next characteristic. Concrete words, specific, accurate words, idioms, facts, figures should be used. Now, sometimes that happens that when somebody speaks, we pay all attention that no, he would not use a word without being so sure, so confirmed about that. If he speaks truth, fact. So, be very choosy about the words, phrases that you use while communication. Sometimes the vivid descriptions, image building words, that also helps a lot. We know it very well, that language always does not suffice, it is not sufficient, it is not enough. Sometimes we feel that okay, I have used 2-3 adjectives, but they are not enough. Let they be supported, those adjectives be supported by your non-verbal also, by your body language also. So, let there be choice, let you be very choosy about the words, descriptions, idioms, phrases, images, everything that you use while your communication. That makes you authentic communicator and effective communicator as well. Simultaneously goes another characteristic which is comparatively closer to this. Try to use very clear statements. Sometimes we come across certain people, they use very hi-fi language, jargons. The purpose of communication is not to impress somebody. The genuine purpose of communication is to be understood, to be acted upon. So, if I know that my targeted audience would not understand, would fail to understand these jargons, difficult words, words meant for particular field only with which my audience is not familiar, I should avoid using those words. Before encoding my message, I have to be very confirmed, very sure about it that my audience is familiar with these phrases, words, sentence pattern, etc. If possible, I may have to use conversational words, avoiding very literary, journalistic language. So, maybe simple words. If sometimes I have to use certain jargons, certain journalist language or literary language, business language, at that time what should I do? I should support those words, those idioms, phrases with certain illustrations, examples, maybe certain visual aids, certain detailed descriptions that the audience would be able to understand very easily. Yes, I hope things are clear. Next, communication has to be very courteous. It should be very effortless. If in because you see, communication is a skill, and it has been developed since our birth. We have been learning by observing also. We have observed people speaking, the lip movement when they say no, the difference between v and w, v and w, w. V is v, w is wa, world, it is world. How do we learn this? We observe. As a small child, when people say no, so this word no is associated with this no, no. Now, this no and no, they are synonyms. How do we come to know? By observation. So, since our birth, we have been communicating. So, it is since years we have been doing it. So, let it be effortless, very normal. It should be very courteous. Many a times I have observed people arguing when they are not courteous in their language. They say, but you see, did you observe how he talked to me, how she talked to me? That is fine, but how he communicates or she communicates is his or her personality, not yours. Let you stick to your personality and let our personality be very courteous. That would prove you master of the words. I repeat, my dear learners, you be the master of the words, and the person who wishes to be the master of the words, master of the language in communication, always uses language very carefully. Uses words and language very carefully means, first, the number of words that I use, the structure of the sentence that I use, whether the statements that I make are they affirmative or negative, are they orders, instructions, requests, suggestions, what are they? Because if they are imperative, they can be order also, suggestions also, request also, advice also, anything that can be. Your tone, intonation, pitch, everything helps you to prove yourself an effective communicator. So, let there be continuous reflection of courtesy in your communication. Next characteristic which is very important is correctness in your communication. Communication should be correct. Now, this correctness consists of so many aspects. Correct first from the content point of view. Whatever I speak is correct. It is the truth. It is the fact. Now, we shall not go in the discussion of truth, because many a times people pop up, they come with that. Truth is very subjective word. So, we are not at present going into it. Yes, but whenever you speak, you should be very confident that what I communicate, that is correct. So, first the content has to be correct. Second, the structure of the message has to be correct. We know it very well. Every language, be it be English, be it be Spanish, be it be French, be it be Gujarati, be it be Bangla, be it be any language, every language has got its own structure. So, see to it that your communication follows exact structure meant for the language. Correctness from the choice of the word. Choose the right word to tell. Many a times that happens, that the language is so rich that we have enriched our language so much that we know that day by day, every day the new words are being coined, they are being added into the dictionary also. So, on one hand this enriching language is so great and fulfilling experience, satisfactory experience. On the other hand, it is equally important that when comparatively same meaning words, many a times we call it confusing words, words liable to be confused, they are there. We feel that, oh, they stand for the same. They may not. So, see to it that the words, phrases, idioms that you choose to convey your message should not be misunderstood, misinterpreted, misresponded simply because you chose wrong word, phrase, idiom or maybe sentence, sometimes tone, pitch, intonation. Many times they say, why don't you understand this? Shh, don't talk to me like, oh, I didn't mean it. Why don't you understand this? Oh dear, why don't you understand this? Do you understand this? Now you see, the words are the same, but the tone, pitch, the way I speak changes the meaning. So, in correctness, what matters and how equally matters. Very important, and the last characteristic that would like to discuss today is communication is interdisciplinary science. First of all, it is a science. How? Because it follows certain structure, system, rules. So, it is science. The word has to pronounced like this. The sound of the word is this. The phonetical transcription of the word is this. The meaning here of the word is this. The pattern of the structure of the sentence is this. It is a science. It is interdisciplinary. You see, today what I am discussing with you is it's a general. Try to understand. Communication is a science centuries back, very ancient, because when the great scientific inventions did not take place or they were not started, communication was there. When the great architectural buildings, structures were not there, communication was there. So many scientific inventions took place later on. Communication is one of the very ancient science, because when the language also did not exist, you see, the written language came into existence later, the vocal, the oral language was there. Even the oral language came into existence later, the sounds were there. Today also in the tribal area, when we move, the tribal people communicate with the birds and animals in their language. They listen the animals and birds, they say that okay, this time monsoon would be earlier, we get surprised. So, yes, the words are not there, but the communication is there. So, it is a science, it is interdisciplinary. Now, you see, as we know the various levels of communication, I communicate to myself, I think. Sometimes I ask question, I answer those questions, I create confusions and I solve those confusions. Everything within this I. Yes, now an individual is a package of so many things. My thoughts, my ideas are not limited to arts, science, dance, physics, biology, mathematics, chemistry. Now, the thoughts are not limited, are not always segregated in these departments, sections. As a result, what happens? Whatever ideas come, they are influenced by so many things. Again, to understand this interdisciplinary science, communication as an interdisciplinary science, I would ask you to go back to the context that we discuss while discussing process of communication. As an individual, whatever I communicate, whatever ideas are there in my mind, whatever feelings, emotions are there in my heart, now all of them are influenced by my teachers who taught me, my parents who brought up me, my siblings, my cousins, my neighborhood, my friends, the books I read, the great people I might have met. Good, bad, worst, best experiences of life. Now, my ideas are influenced by everything like this. Now, can I separate those ideas as per the science or the discipline they belong to? No, that is not possible. And as a result, communication is interdisciplinary science. You cannot say, or anyone cannot say exactly that the statement that came from XYZ person belongs to this discipline. Okay, that belongs to discipline of fine art, but the roots are there in architecture. Okay, the statement is related to mathematics, but the roots are somewhere there in maybe performing art, somewhere then in philosophy. So, it is interdisciplinary. Communication is interdisciplinary. Dear learners, there are many other characteristics of communication also, but we discussed today some very important of the characteristics of communication. Now, shall we have a quick revision, having glance over and aloud reading with the slides on the screen. Let us have a glance over the slides on the screen. Characteristics of communication. Communication is a two-way process. Communication is a continuous process. Communication is a goal-oriented process. Communication involves mutuality of understanding between sender and receiver. Communication involves exchange of ideas, feelings, information, thoughts and knowledge. Communication is interdisciplinary science. Communication should be complete, providing all necessary information. Communication should be concise, brief in style. Communication should be considerate about focusing on readers' expectation. Here, readers as well as listeners' expectation from the speaker. Communication should be concrete, using specific and accurate words, facts, figures, or maybe using vivid image building words. Communication should be clear, using short, familiar, conversational words. If required, using examples, illustrations and other visual aids when expected or desirable. Communication should be courteous. Communication should be correct. My dear learners, I hope The characteristics of communication are clear to you. Try to revise them, and more than that, very important is, now whenever you play role of communicator as a sender or receiver, always try to evaluate whether you follow these characteristics while communicating or not. Try to implement. Communication skills is a subject which is very practical. Simply listening, understanding, or mugging up, learning by heart, the characteristics would not serve the purpose. Try to understand, implement in your communication. Try to be very effective communicator. That what matters a lot. Again, whatever characteristics of communication we discussed today, they are not limited to only English language communication. It is in general communication skill characteristics. These are characteristics, these characteristics are to make yourself, to prepare you as good adept. These characteristics that we discussed today are here to make you adept, excellent, good communicator by implementing them in your communication. Wish you very happy learning. Namaste.
स्वाध्यायः परमं तपः
स्वाध्याय टीवी